All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to tackle one of the biggest, most influential ideas in the entire history of philosophy, Plato's theory of forms. Now, I know that sounds a little heavy, but trust me, we're going to break it down in a really simple and visual way. And it all starts with a very simple question.
Okay, do me a favor. Right now, wherever you are, just for a second, I want you to picture a leaf. Just the first image that pops into your head. Got it? Okay, hold on to that picture.
I'm willing to bet that what you pictured was something a lot like this, right? That classic, simple, almost stereotypical leaf shape. What's so wild is that this shared idea in our heads, this is the key that unlocks Plato's entire way of thinking.
And that brings us to our first big point. And it's a weird one. Plato would argue that the leaf you just imagined in your mind is actually more real than any physical leaf you could go out and pick off a tree. I know that sounds totally backward, so let's unpack how that could possibly be true. I mean, think about it. When you actually look at leaves in the real world, they're never perfect, are they? They've got bites taken out of them by bugs, they've got little spots of fungus, they're shriveled up from the heat, or they're kind of stunted. According to Plato, every single one of them is just a flawed, busted copy of that perfect one you have in your head.
Plato even had a name for these real-world leaves. He called them accidental forms. They're sort of participating in the idea of being a leaf, but they aren't the true, pure essence of leafness. So if you want to understand what a leaf truly is, you wouldn't waste your time studying these broken examples. You'd focus on the perfect idea, the one in your mind.
This whole idea pushed Plato to a really radical conclusion, that there are actually two separate worlds, two different realms of existence. This was his big solution to the problem of our imperfect reality.
So, on one side, you've got our world, the physical world that we see and touch and hear. Everything in it is constantly changing and it's all imperfect. But then Plato said, there's another world, the world of forms. This place is eternal, it's unchanging, and it is absolutely perfect. You can't see it or touch it, you can only get there with your mind. So here's the bottom line. For Plato, real knowledge, like true, genuine understanding, it doesn't come from poking around in our messy physical world. It comes from intellectual effort, from using your mind to grasp those perfect eternal blueprints that exist in the world of forms. Okay, so what in the world is a form? What are we actually talking about here? Well, probably the best way to think about it is like a perfect blueprint. Okay, here's the textbook definition. A form is the essence of a thing. It's the quality that makes something what it is. I know that sounds a little dense, right? So think of it this way. Think of all the different tables in the world. Kitchen tables, coffee tables, whatever. They're all different, but they all share in one perfect form of tableness. Without that core blueprint, they just wouldn't be tables at all. Let's use another example that makes this crystal clear. Imagine someone draws a triangle on a blackboard with a piece of chalk. The lines are probably a little wavy, the corners aren't perfectly sharp. It's a pretty imperfect triangle, right? And yet, every single one of us, instantly, knows it's a triangle. How? How do we know that? Well, Plato would say it's because our minds can access the perfect, unchanging form of triangle, the pure mathematical idea. We recognize the flawed, chalky copy because we already know the perfect blueprint.
Now, this usually leads to the number one question people ask. Is this world of forms an actual physical place? Like, can you pack a bag and go visit the realm of perfect triangles?
And the answer is a hard no. Plato was really, really clear about this. The forms aren't physical objects. They don't exist in space or in time like we do. They are purely abstract, conceptual realities that exist completely outside of our physical universe. Okay, so if these forms are just abstract ideas floating around somewhere, why should we care? What's the actual point of any of this? Well, this is where the theory stops being a weird thought experiment and becomes an incredibly powerful tool. We're about to go from talking about leaves and triangles to something much bigger: justice. Here's how you can use this as a tool for thinking. First, you use your intellect to really wrap your head around the perfect, ideal form of something. Then, you look around at the flawed, imperfect versions of it that exist in our world. And by comparing the two, you can see exactly where our reality has gone wrong, and then you can start asking, why? And again, this isn't just for simple objects. Plato meant for us to use this exact framework to understand the biggest, most important concepts in human life. ideas like beauty or courage, or even how to run a government. So, let's take the ultimate example. Let's think about the form of justice. What is perfect, ideal justice? Completely separate from any one country or any one law. What does it truly mean for something to be just?
You see, Plato believed that if we don't think about the ideal, we just get used to the imperfect, sometimes broken systems of justice we see around us. But if we can first grasp the perfect form of justice in our minds, then we have a blueprint. We have a standard. We have something to measure our own laws, our courts, and our entire society against. And this really is the final crucial question that Plato leaves us with. It's not just some ancient philosophical puzzle. It is a direct challenge to us, right here, right now. If a perfect blueprint for justice really does exist, a form that we can all grasp with our minds, then the most important question we could possibly ask is, where and why has our world failed to follow it?